And good morning and welcome back. We are going to be looking at multiplication and division of when we're multiplying by 10, 100 and 1,000 and dividing by that as well. So to get us started, just going to put a simple problem up on the board. I've got 2 and I've got 2 at the moment and I'm multiplying it by 10. If I'm multiplying it by 10, that means I've got 2 here, and I want 10 lots of 2. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 2 times 10 is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and it's 20. So if we are thinking about that, then all we are actually doing is when we are timesing by 10, because it's got a 0, is we are just moving the decimal place one spot over because our number is getting 10 times bigger. And we're adding 1 0 because there was 1 0 in 10. Let's try it with another example. So I'm going to be thinking about our hundreds because this is what we are able to do. 2 times 100. So that is just saying that we're talking about hundreds, and how many of these do we have? We've got 1 and we've got 2. So if we're looking at that scenario, we're just looking at our first numbers. 1 times 2 equals 2. How many zeros do I have? I have 1 0 and a second 0. So I add the 2 zeros on. Or you could say I move the decimal place 2 spaces to the right and it became 100 times bigger. So what we've just done here, this also links on to us multiplying other numbers. For example, two times 30. Now the first thing I would like you to think about here is we always just look at our first 2 numbers. Now, before we do that, let's just work out the answer. I've got 2 lots of 30s. 10, 20, 30. 10, 20, and 30. So I've got 30 plus 30 equals 60. So all I would have done here is looked at my first number, looked at my second without looking at the zeros. 2 times 3 equals 6, and I've got 6 tenths. How many zeros do I have? 1 0, and I add the 0 on. That rule applies for all of my numbers, even the more complex equations. For example, even if I've got 20 times is 20 times 40. I look at my first 2 numbers, my digits that are there that are not 0. I've got 2 and I've got 4. 2 times 4 equals 8. How many zeros do I have? I've got 1 0, 2 zeros. So I add 2 zeros on. Because 20 times 40 is the exact same as 2 times 400, which also equals 800. So 2 times 4 equals 8. How many zeros? I have 2 zeros and I add the 2 zeros on. Now let's look at when we are dividing by 10, 100 and 1,000. So when we are dividing, we are doing the opposite. So we've been talking about us getting 10 times bigger, 100 times bigger, and 1,000 times bigger, and moving the decimal place to the right hand side. So when we are dividing by 10, 100, and 1,000, we are getting smaller, which means our decimal place is moving to the left. So let's start off with a simple one that we will all be able to do in our heads. $50 divided by 10. So the first thing I would like you to think about here is that we are going to need to think about our times tables. 10 times what equals 50? 10 times 5 equals 50. So we're using our fact family. Now we can have a look at this question. 5 divided, now we've got 50 divided by 10 equals 5. Because we're dividing by 10, it's got 1 0. That means we are moving the decimal place 1 spot to the left. It's getting 1 spot smaller. Exactly the same if we have 50 divided by 100. Now, if you know your fractions, 50 over 100 is a half, and our answer should be 0.5. Let's double check with the rules. The rule is we've got 2 zeros in 100, so we're moving our decimal place 2 spaces to the left, and it goes to 0.5, which is what we have here. Now, if you need any more assistance on multiplication and division of by 10, 100s and 1,000, feel free to drop me a line and I'll make another video just for you.